usually try to aim for like around an hour or so. But
Okay,
anyways.
perfect.
Okay, so today's guest on the podcast is Willie Shaw, who is a fellow videographer from Washington State. Is that right?
Yes.
So how's it going up there?
Man, it's going good. Thanks for having me. Do videography. Kind of started with photography, fell in love with shooting videos of my family, and been rocking with video ever since. Just like once I found out that's what I liked, just dove into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I watched one of your videos where you mentioned about how you and your wife, you wanted to make the leap into freelance photography, right?
Yes.
And then throughout the process, you kind of stumbled upon videography, and you're like,
Exactly.
oh, hey, this is also pretty cool. So that's like kind of your journey into the video space, right?
Yeah, man. So I was working a job. I was a manager for the Sprint store, which is like a cell phone company. Surprisingly, they got bought out by T-Mobile, and so they don't even exist anymore. But I thought I would be like a corporate guy. Like I really believed that I would maybe one day own a Sprint store. But definitely climbing up that corporate ladder was like my future. I knew for sure that's what I wanted. And then I remember like I would watch Gary Vee videos back in those days, and he was really heavy on like when everything changes in your life, like show where your priorities. And I remember thinking like, oh, sure. But that's exactly what happened. Like once me and my wife got married and we had our first son, I instantly realized like, whoa, I don't want to be this corporate guy anymore. I want to be a father that can be there for my kids and like be involved in their day-to-day lives. And then it was like redesigning my life around them. How could I be there for them? I wanted to be the father that was there because that's something I never had. And so the journey began. And I was already doing photography on the side. And it was just like a dream, right? Like maybe I could take this full time one day. But then that turned into like, okay, well, if I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it. And I'd rather try. And then worst case scenario, get another job than be like, dang, what would have been? What could have been, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah, because that's the hardest part for most people is that initial leap of faith, because you have so much fear of leaving a positive, I wouldn't say a positive job, but more of like a stable job, a stable income for your family, to take like a leap of faith into photography, which is full of unknowns. Like you have no idea how much money you're going to make in the beginning. You have no idea if you're going to be successful or how you're going to find clients. But that initial jump is always so difficult. But so how long has it been since you took that initial leap of faith?
Yeah, so my son just turned 5, and he was about 6 months when I made the jump. So it's been just under 5 years, 4.5 years. Yeah, it was same thing, right? That like I often say that somebody's excuse is another person's reason, right? So like the same reason why I could have been like, oh, I can't jump now, I have a family. It's the same reason. It's like I need to jump now because I have a family. And so it's just like one of those, you got to do it or you're going to forever just be thinking like, oh, what if, you know? You can always get another job, especially like in sales. What I was doing is like, well, worst case scenario, I can go work for the competition and like, you know, make it work out.
It's interesting too because that you mentioned that you're a father, because I'm also a new father.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thanks, bro. The dad life.
Yeah.
My daughter is 16 months.
Yes.
And what I realize is my mindset as a human being and my priorities in my life instantaneously changed overnight.
Yes.
My needs as a human being are now superseded by the needs of my daughter. Like everything in my life now takes a backseat to her.
Yeah.
And my priorities of, I want to get a good corporate job, to have a lot of money, to buy things, now becomes, I want a job that's flexible, that has enough money to pay for my daughter's things.
Yes,
right? And you have this weird mentality shift towards focusing in on your family. And I think that's why I kind of resonated with you when I randomly stumbled upon some of your work. And I was like, okay, so this guy is a couple years ahead of me in the dad life game, so maybe there's something I can learn.
Oh man, of course. Yeah, that's funny you say that, because like that, like when I originally started just in this entrepreneurship, and I was trying a bunch of different things. Like photography was the thing, but I also was doing like click funnels and sales funnels and stuff like that, making websites, is really trying to figure it out. But I had this Facebook group called Dad Entrepreneurs. The podcast is still out there. Like, you can still search and listen to it. And it was just that, exactly, like wanting to connect with fathers who are entrepreneurs. And like, I had this little quote that I really thought was perfect. And it was just like, you have two jobs. One, be a dad. Two, provide for your family. And it was just like those two core things. Like, if we can focus on those, then we'll be okay. And it was cool, man. I had about, it wasn't too crazy big, like 150 people maybe in it. And yeah, we just kind of helped each other out. And then, like all things, if you don't stay on top of it, it kind of fills it out. But it was nice to have that like tribe of people supporting me and being able to help people in their endeavors as well.
That's really good.
Yeah.
When you started, did you do the whole like wedding photography route or like music video route? Like, how did you start
good question.
your career?
So I was really heavy into vlogging when I first started, and not because I was absolutely in love with it, but I knew that was the fastest way for me to learn like the basic techniques, really get comfortable with my camera on the video aspect. I had already been doing photography for quite some time, and basically on a photo shoot, like a family photo shoot or a maternity, I would also just swap it over to video and capture a couple of clips, put it together, and then that was just like additional bonus. Like, my clients didn't know anything about it, but they got it, and I was really paying attention to their reaction. So it got to a point where they were like more excited about the video that I was giving them than the photos, and I was like, okay, there's something here. We live in kind of a small town, and so hey, buddy. That's my son right there saying hi. Both of them.
Hey, buddy.
He can't hear you. He said sorry. He said hi. Yeah, and then little louder. Hey, go ahead. Daddy's gonna finish this up. Go ahead.
Daddy, you said get off of work so we can do something for it.
Okay, we do that later. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi.
It's like hi. Yeah, these little guys are the reason, right?
Hey.
Go ahead, buddy.
That's awesome.
Close the door behind you, okay? Thank you. Lost my train of thought there.
No worries, bro. That's life, man.
Yeah.
That's your life right there.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, small town, people started taking notice of it because I was never shy about sharing, because I knew, like, if one person likes this, I know there's another person that likes it. And that formula just worked. I got hired off of a blog. Like, they saw one of my vlogs and said, hey, maybe you can do this for a real estate company. I worked for them for a year, and then basically I consider that my training, because like I was okay at vlogs. Like back then I was like, yeah, I'm hot, but like looking back, it's like, yo, that was it's just garbage. But I had to learn. And when I worked for this company, like, I mean, I was doing like 3 shoots a day, and like the agents were like, where's the video, like the next day? So I was just like, yeah, slow down. Like, I'm working as fast as I can. But it was good to have that push to really have to like go and create on demand. And then I left that job to take my videography business full time, because I figured if I could do this for them, I know there's other real estate agents that will want it. And I wanted to kind of scale it back, because I knew, like, obviously what I went to do video and photography for was to be more available for my family. And so it was like, okay, what's the bare minimum? How much do I need to make? How many clients do I need to take on? And if I can do that, like, with one client, like, how much happier will I be? And that's exactly what I did. I reached out to a couple clients, and it had like a little bidding war, if you will, to see nice. Who was the best fit. Yeah, and so I was just like, I was just really thinking it through, because I learned from my past mistakes. Like, I don't want to be doing a ton of work. I want to do, like, great quality work, take my time on it, but also with somebody who I think is going to be a long-term client. And it just worked out beautifully. That exact client I still work with today. And then I have, like, I take on a ton of side projects still, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if something happens crazy, like, it's like, oh, well, that was my only client. And so, like, I work with the high school I graduated from. Like, they hire me for video projects. And, it's just been an awesome journey.
Wow, that's awesome. Wait, so how how have you been doing throughout all of the pandemic then? Like, were you still getting clients? Like, did things slow down? Like, how was that for you?
Dude, that's a great question. I am so blessed that during the pandemic, right before this, I had a great video job with my school. And we did like 7-8 videos. And the last day that we filmed and finished was like the beginning of shutdown. And so I got a decent sized check that lasted me through a good amount of months. And, you know, we weren't going anywhere or eating out. So it was just like, okay, we're just home. And then I do a lot of personal videos because like my formula has been personal video has always led to some paid opportunity, whether it's in the immediate future or well down the line. And so I made a video for our coffee company. It's Fidalgo Coffee. Shout out to Fidalgo Coffee if you're out there.
Hey.
And they loved it, and they were like, hey, maybe we'll work in the future someday. That came around 2020, no pun intended, and they hired me to do coffee videos for like 6 months last year. Like, so I was basically like, okay, I'm getting low on this. Lord, what do you have for me next? And then like the next day, they reached out and was like, hey, you want to do some coffee videos? So I was going to their warehouse once a week and just like shooting content with them once a week, and it was a good time.
Wow, that's amazing, because I know so many people and fellow photographers and videographers who basically lost all their work.
Yes.
They lost like everything because a lot of these companies were forced to close because they weren't deemed an essential service, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way they have budget for a videographer anymore or a photographer. And I was always wondering, like, how do full-time freelancers, how did they survive these past couple years? Because for me, I do it part-time, and I still keep a day job on the side. So I have flexibility, right, with how I can earn some money, right? So even though I lost some of the gigs that I had, it didn't really affect me too much. But I was like, wow, what if all of my income was coming from these videography jobs?
Yeah.
Like, what would you do? You'd be screwed if you have a family or a mortgage or anything.
Well, I think of it. Oh yeah. Well, so I think of like I've thought of that, and I think of it like if that was the case, like you when you become a father, you have this like thing embedded in you to become a provider, and like it just goes like when maybe your bank account's getting low and it starts to kind of fire back up, or in that scenario like you're about to lose your job because a pandemic happens and it's very unforeseen. But I think you just figure out a way. Like I just really believe that when the cards are on the line like that, game is on the line, there's always another way. There's always something that just happens to come, and whether that's within that career that you're currently in, or maybe it's picking up a job or something, like there's just seems to always be a way out, even when it feels like there's no way out.
That's true. The way I usually think about that type of stuff, if you're putting in the work and you're putting yourself out there, right? It's almost as if you're throwing darts at a dartboard. If you throw enough darts, eventually one of them is going to stick, right? But if you don't put yourself out there and keep trying and putting in the work, then you're not going to get that outcome. And it sucks because I hear people say like, oh, you're so lucky that you got this, or oh, you're so lucky you got that. But like if you're putting in the work, you're almost manufacturing your own self-made luck.
Yes.
Rather than just sitting back and waiting for something to happen, right?
Yes. Yeah, because what is it? I'm going to butcher this thing, but it's like luck isn't really luck. It's just like preparation meets opportunity. Right, and so like, you've been preparing for this, and then so when the opportunity comes your way, you're prepared. I can tell you plenty of stories of opportunities that came my way, and I just wasn't prepared. But like the opportunities that come now, it's like, dang, Willie, you're so lucky. It's like, well, realistically, you're not watching me on the daily grind when I'm making these YouTube videos, when I'm reading these books to try to better understand like how can I be better in these other areas, and like the video that I put out today was probably made in a day, but it's really that 4 years of grind that led to that video, that led to that client 4 years later.
Okay, I see. Wait, you posted a video today?
No, I'm saying, for example, I usually post every,
when you post a video.
I usually post every Friday. I went on a 2-week road trip with my family. It was absolutely amazing. Made it, I recorded a ton of video, and I'll probably make some kind of like, mini series from it. That's what kind of where my brain is going with it right now. But then on top of that, like, Essentialism is so core to how I live my lifestyle now that I know that I want to do, like, keep what I have going. I want to do another Essentialism video, so I have a couple in the queue that I'm going to be working on this week.
Oh, that's good. Well, speaking of Essentialism, that's actually how I stumbled upon your channel. I can't remember what it was called. It was something like, I think it had like 1,000 views or something.
Yeah, I'm getting it's getting there. It's getting there, man.
You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, because I have like 2 Essentialist videos that like I mean, I have more than 2, but there's 2 that continuously like bring people to me. It's probably like becoming an Essentialist video. I want to say it's probably
My Essentialist Journey. That was the one that I saw.
Yeah.
So let me tell you the story how this happened. So I started reading this book, obviously by Greg McEwen, right?
Yeah, I got it right here, man. I love that book.
Oh, you have the paperback?
Paper, and I got the audiobook, man. I really do. It's right there.
Oh, see, you're a true Essentialist. I got it. I got the PDF on my phone.
Oh, nothing wrong with that, man.
So, anyways, I've been reading it. I haven't finished it yet, and for whatever reason, I kind of got fatigue from reading it, and I wanted to just search up Essentialism on YouTube just to see what can come up, right? And I was just, clicking a bunch of videos. I like to watch videos from smaller creators, not just like the big creators like, like Matt Diavella or any of those big kind of guys. I kind of like enjoy the ones that have like less views.
Yeah.
Because then the person is kind of more authentic and relatable in a way. And then when I watched your video, I was like, okay, so this guy, he's not just reading a book. He knows how to use a camera. And that's what triggered me. I was like, okay, so you're like a videographer. I can appreciate the storytelling and the cinematography that you put into the video, right? And that's kind of how I found you and wanted to reach out to you, because I was like, okay, this guy sounds like he's into similar stuff as me, because this is what I like to do. I like to learn about self-development stuff, then use my skills in filmmaking to tell a compelling story, right? And then share that on YouTube.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah, man. So kind of, I think it might have been that video where I'm kind of explaining. I've been I was always into minimalism, but I knew I couldn't fully take that on. Like, it resonated with me when it came out. Even before that, I felt like I was always searching for something on those lines. Like, before self-help books and like me actually reading them, I always would be like, man, I love looking up random like philosophy quotes and like things that can, you hear it one time and it's like, well, that really kind of changes like the way that I live. And so I was kind of like you, man. I was going through YouTube one day. I was listening to Matt Davila's podcast, The Ground Up Show. And I consume like a ton of his content, man. And it was Become an Essentialist. He had podcast hosted was he's the host. He had Greg McEwen on, and I was just listening, and instantly, like, I listened to that podcast probably 30 times. Like, I was like, whoa, this resonates so strongly with me that I need to like try to understand what this guy is saying, because the idea of like owning less and like I was like, okay, that makes sense. I want to own less so that I can focus on what's important. But I had never heard somebody talk about like just eliminating the trivial many and like really focusing on the vital few. And like when I heard that, I was like, okay, I know what it's like to want to do everything and fall up short because you've tried to do too much. And nobody ever sat me down and said, look, man, there's another way. Like, you can still have time to do like the fun random things, but if you focus on what's important first, like everything else will start to play out. And so man, I read that book and it just completely changed how I did everything, like from the ability to say no to people who ask me questions. Like, I just had a buddy text me like, "Hey man, do you mind, like, maybe you can shoot a video for me?" And I was
I hate that.
yeah, those, the magic question. And just like before I really think about, like, okay, how can I make this work, and how can I tell them no? But now it's like, I'm to my core, I'm like, hey, I just don't have the time. So it's just like, it's a very respectful back, like, hey man, thank you for reaching out. I would love this opportunity, but given my current circumstances, with my current schedule with my family, my current personal projects I'm taking on, and my work projects, as much as I want to say yes, I have to say no. However, here's somebody that might be interested. And so, yeah, man, the book just completely changed my personal life, my business life, and it's a great book, man. I really have enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm getting a lot of value from it so far. You know what really resonated with me in that book? When it was a very simple concept, but it almost was huge into comparison with how it affected me. It was, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no.
Dude,
right? Like, if it's not 100% something you want to do, then by default it should just be a no.
Yes.
And I never thought of that, because I always like, oh, maybe this is good enough, so then I'll say yes. Or this seems like an okay opportunity, then, I shouldn't pass it up. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, so I got to be all in on this decision, or I should just say no to it. And that idea of letting go of the 7s and 8s and only taking things that are 9s or 10s.
Yes.
That's what I've kind of got from it so far. And I find it very interesting and beneficial to, like, my thought process so far in saying no to people, right?
Yeah.
Just like hey, you want to shoot a video for me?
Right. And like, I mean, how many times have you been booked for a, like, I kind of want, sure, I'll do this. And then another opportunity arises and you're like, like, it's, a great opportunity, but then, like, a perfect opportunity happens. You have to take the great one because you said yes to the perfect opportunity. Like, that's happened to me so many times prior to, even still, like, I'm not perfect at it, right? But it just, like you're saying, the ability to think for a minute and, like, okay, if it's not an absolute yes, then it's a no. And it just changes, man. It changes your happiness, especially with the video. You're doing video work. We're spending hours pouring in a lot of times to something, and the passion that I have in the beginning, like, yeah, it's going to start to dwindle over time. But I need to be passionate about this project to see it through, because I want you to get the best work that I can create. But for you to get that, I have to be extremely into this. I have to be extremely passionate about what I'm doing, because if I'm not, it's going to show. And maybe they don't notice, but me, in the back of my mind, I'm like, could have been better,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm also kind of fortunate because I've met a lot of people who are way more successful than me that have given me some really good advice with past experiences in videography. Like, say, for example, I have a couple friends that were doing videography gigs for weddings, right? And, like, weddings, they pay pretty good, but it's an extreme amount of work, an extreme amount of time, to dedicate towards doing videography or photography for a wedding. And my best friend is a full-time videographer, and he does really well on YouTube. And he had, I think it was 2 weddings that he said yes to, but they weren't until like a year later, right? But at the time, it's like, oh, the money is good. The YouTube channel is doing all right. But then things started to really pick up for him. And now 1 year later, it's getting time towards that wedding. And he's just like, man, why did I say yes to this?
Yes.
Like, he has so much bigger things going on right now, right, in the moment, that he's like, he kind of taught me, like, hey, when someone offers you some money to film a video, don't just jump on it right away. Like, take your time, contemplate what they're offering, how much time is it going to cost you, and when does it have to get done by, and try to, like, make the best decision in the moment instead of defaulting immediately to yes, right?
Yes.
And this is what Essentialism kind of talks about too. It's how it's like what you don't do is just as important as what you do.
Yes.
Right? Like that saying no, it is very, very important. And I've been trying to improve this in my own life, and I'm finding it very difficult because by default, I am always, a very accommodating person. I always like to say yes to people. I always like to do things and help out. And now I'm like, wow, I say yes way too much, and I'm trying to learn and trying to relearn my brain, to say no to some of these situations, right?
Yeah, yeah. It makes me think of like another saying that kind of I'll probably butcher. It's like your heart knows before your mind does, and so like a lot of times when you can kind of feel somebody telling you something. At least for myself, and I'll get this little jolt where it's like, oh, like this is a no, right? And like the times that I haven't listened and I just like went ahead and said yes, I'm just miserable, kind of like what you're saying. And so the times that like it's like I don't even know, this sounds almost perfect, but something doesn't feel right. Okay, I'm gonna go with the no. And it's like something else comes to light where it's like, man, I dodged a bullet, or I'll see that they went with somebody else and I'll see the video and I'm like, oh yeah, I really dodged it. Like this is nothing like what I would want to create. And so, yeah, man, it's what's cool too is when you do finish this book, there's a lot of other great books out there, but Greg did a second book. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's called Effortless.
No, I haven't seen it.
So this came out last month, and it picked up on something that I kind of feel like I'm at this point where what happens when you've eliminated the trivial many and it's still not enough? What happens when you are living the life of essentialist, when you are you've cut out all the extra, there's no more fat to trim, and you're still overwhelmed and you're still feeling like there's not enough time? You could either get less sleep, work even harder, or you can figure out a way to do it easier, simplify it, make it effortless. And I haven't finished it yet, but same thing, I bought the physical book and I have the audio book. And what I really enjoyed about this book is, Greg's really, how can I explain? He's really gotten good at, like, not trying to tell you what to do, but does a good job of sharing stories that will make you be like, oh, like connect the dots for you, and then like how can you apply that in your own life? Because I found like there's a lot of things in essentialism that are like immediately applicable, like you can immediately go and apply that. But a lot of other books that I've read, it doesn't have that same effect. It's like a lot of stuff that's like, oh, this is great in theory, but when I go out into the real world, how can I apply this? And so both of his books have been really good in that. And kind of the thing that I really enjoyed was on his intro, he's kind of discussing like, all his wants, and I resonated really heavy with it. It was just like, I wanted to be a good father, and so I wanted to be able to provide, and that meant I needed to go to work, but I wanted to be a good employee and be a good, business person, so I had to stay late, and I want it, and it's just all these wants, right? And so like eventually, we can't do it all, and we're gonna burn out trying, and you have to figure out something, right? Like either you keep going at it the way you're going and fail eventually, because you can. And a lot of times it's sustainable, but not for the long term, or you could find an effortless way of doing it. And so, I'm that's kind of where I'm at, like trying to figure out, like, okay, how can I make the essential things effortless now?
Oh, that's so interesting. How to make the essential things effortless. Yeah, because if you do try to do everything all at once, man, like that burnout, like I've experienced that before too, like working a job, starting a YouTube channel, starting a podcast, having videography gigs, like all these things simultaneously happening at the same time. It's almost impossible to keep up or put in a decent amount of effort into all of them, right? And it's almost as if like you kind of need to create systems to, like you said, make them flow effortlessly for the things that really matter, right? And I'm still trying my best to figure all of this out. And earlier you mentioned minimalism, and I actually had a very interesting opinion upon minimalism, which is kind of similar to you, where I heard about it and I was like, okay, this is kind of appealing. I understand the concepts, I can agree with this. But then I was like, my family, they were immigrants, right? And the immigrant mentality of you keep everything. Like at my grandfather's house, we had, those coffee tins that were used, that, you just recycle them. we saved them. They're in the workshop for screws and bolts.
Yeah.
Like we saved everything and saran wrapped our remote controls because like that immigrant mentality. Like
Yeah.
what you have is it's so important to you because we came from nothing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, throw everything out. And I'm like, well, shit, is my parents gonna beat me or something?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean throw everything out, right? So that's why minimalism, it kind of didn't vibe with me. And I was always searching for something else, something similar but different. And I think that's what essentialism kind of is, but I'm still trying to work it out in my mind. Like, is this part of my identity? Is this something like minimalism that appeals to me, but maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't apply to my life? And I'm still trying to work out all the bugs and kinks in there, but I'll definitely check out the Effortless book. That sounds amazing.
Oh man, seriously. Yeah, man. I mean, coming from somebody who, like I said, it just instantly resonated with me. It's like, Greg had this quote in his podcast with Matt, and he said, the key is becoming an essentialist before you're forced to. Become an essentialist before you have to. And he doesn't really like dive into why he said that, but I played, like I said, I played it so many times that I really thought about that. And it's like, if you can know what's essential in your life, and you can get that figured out early, and you can figure out a way to do those things, when other things arise, you already have that system in play. You already be able to say, well, like, this is the thing. It's that one decision that I've already made that takes care of the rest of them. The decision to become a videographer took care of my job searching to where I don't jump at every opportunity. It's like, well, no, I just do video stuff. The decision to become a lawyer means that the classes and things you go to school for are going to be in line with that. By default, it's going to eliminate a lot of other decisions. And so, the idea of like kind of like you're saying, like, how minimalist kind of resonated, but it was like kind of those areas that were kind of all over the place. At the end of my video, I remember I said, now I don't think everybody needs to take on essentialism, but I do believe essentialism, like, there are some things that you can take from it. And now I'm kind of the opposite. I think that everybody should have an understanding of essentialism, because and this, I could be completely wrong. I might look back on this in a year from now and be like, I don't know what I was saying. But
that's okay. No regrets, bro.
Right? Yeah. It just seems,
No
from my experience, life doesn't seem to be getting any easier. It doesn't seem to be getting any slower. The options are abundant, and our ability to have paralysis analysis with decisions is getting completely just crazy. And so if you don't have like that core, like, okay, I know what I'm here for, I'm going to do that job, and then you have fun with the rest, then it becomes that opposite, right? The idea, like, the two jars where you put the rocks in, and the big rocks represent your life and the important things. The small rocks represent like the semi-important things, and then the sand represents like the non-essential. And then if you were to fill that jar up with sand first, the non-essentials, there's not going to be room for the bigger rocks. But if you did the opposite, you filled the jar with the bigger rocks, you can pour the sand and stuff in. And so it's that idea of like taking care of what's important first, and you will always have time for the non-essential. And so those are my thoughts on it.
No, that's great. That I like the analogy of the jar with the sand. See, like the way that I've set up my life right now is, I would like to get to a point where you are, where like content creation and videography is the career, where it's like the path where all my income, comes from, because this is something that I love to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm only 2 years in with cameras. I started in 2019. So I'm trying to take a realistic approach where, okay, how better can I really get in 2 years? Even if I put 40 hours a week, that's 4,000 hours. I definitely am a lot better with the camera, but, I'm nowhere near where I would like to be. So I kind of just kept the job for now, right? Yeah. It makes a decent amount. It can cover bills and whatever, and I don't have to really worry about it. And then the YouTube channel, is all about things that I love to do.
Yes.
It's just I'll just do things that I love and that I'm passionate about and that I enjoy. And then I had the gigs on the side to pay. I used that money to pay for lenses and gear. And that was the only reason for the gigs. And then the podcast was my intended way to give back and look for creators that I could talk to and try to promote their work. Like on this podcast that I do, I don't self-promote in any way. I like to promote other people and learn from other people, right? So what I did is I set up these 4 specific things where I know exactly what purpose each one has, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest problem that I find in regular society is when you ask people, what do you really want in life? They have no idea. They have no idea what they want. If they don't know what they want, they have no idea how to create a system and how to get there.
Yes.
And they just work because, I might as well just keep working because there's nothing else better out there. And you don't have direction in your life, right? And I'm trying to apply all these different concepts like, okay, maybe some things in minimalism are pretty cool, like wearing plain shirts. So I bought a ton of these boring plain shirts and threw out all my N1, Nike, all that nonsense, right? So, okay, that's cool. But throwing away all my stuff, okay, no, maybe that doesn't work. So I'll leave that on the side, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like picking and choosing all these ideas and concepts and creating my own personal essential life, if that makes any sense. Or at least that's my goal.
No, I think like exactly what you're saying is exactly what I've done as well. It's like when it comes to like minimalism, exactly the same. I wear all black. Like my closet is pretty much, there's no thought into clothing. And so I think it's like, I think you said it so well. It's like I'm an essentialist and a minimalist, but I've only picked certain things from minimalism that I felt would be not only beneficial to my life, but also like realistic and achievable. And kind of like you're saying, like when you come from nothing, you come from very low. It's very difficult to completely reverse your psychology on attachment to things. And so it's like, well, yeah, I could get rid of everything, but not only do these things have a story to tell, but I also have this attachment to it because, if not only can I recall times wanting that kind of stuff and not being able to afford it, but also just like it's being able to look back and be like, dang, I remember when I couldn't, like it feels good to have that. And even though to some it might be like, oh, that's superficial, you don't need that, but it's like, well, if you haven't walked that journey, it's kind of hard to explain. And so, yeah, man, I think that's a cool way of looking at it, kind of picking and choosing the things that are going to, ultimately benefit you and create that lifestyle that you want.
Yeah,
like if you want to,
sure.
I'm assuming because you make videos and because you're on YouTube, like myself, like my ideal life would be a YouTuber. I would be able to create content based off of what I like, have a community of people that resonate with it and kind of help me to push myself along, but also I'm helping those people who are maybe just a page or two behind me to be like, hey, here's how I got here, let me pull you up and get you there. Yeah,
exactly. Another big thing that I like about YouTube is like you can kind of share your past experiences in a non-obnoxious way. Yeah. Like, when you go to like a corporate job and then you kind of talk to like your coworkers or talk to whoever, there's always this weird conversation that comes up where you should do this, right? You should buy a house. Renting is wasting money. You should eat this. You should not eat. It's always like you should do this. And it's always this weird narrow mindset where people have this opinion where you should do what they do and you shouldn't consider all possibilities. Yes. And another reason why I don't like the minimalism thing, like I don't want to be locked in where my identity is a minimalist. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be like some guy who's team, I don't know, Republican or Democrat, then you can't change your mind. Or I don't want to be some guy that's some, I don't know, Android or Apple. Like, how we have this team mentality, especially in North America. It's like you got to pick one or the other. And I'm always like, well, why, right? Well, what if Android makes an amazing phone next year? Then maybe wouldn't I want to switch? And then what if Apple steps their game up? Then wouldn't I want to, like, why does it have to be Team Xbox or Team PlayStation? This like narrow mindset where you're not able to change your mind, and that kind of drives me crazy, because when I post stuff on YouTube, I'm very careful with not telling people what to do. And I always go, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm trying. You know, if it's intermittent fasting or cold showers or wearing a life uniform, these are things that I'm trying. And I'm hoping maybe you can gain something from my perspective and then add it to your life. But if you don't and you disagree with it, then that's cool. Totally that's perfectly fine. That is not my intention with a YouTube channel. I like to be able to share ideas and not get boxed into these teams that we have set up in society. And I just wish there was a way you could get away with that, right? Without being called like a flip-flop or whatever people call you, right? You know?
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I think like there's this thing that I kind of keep in my head, and it gives me like that permission to be okay with changing. And it's basically when the circumstances change, I change my mind. And that just, for me, has been like something I literally tell myself time and time again. And sometimes it's like frustrating for my family or my wife. Well, she'd be like, well, you said you want to do this. I'm like, well, circumstances change, so I changed my mind. And like, it's almost like my easy pass, but it's worked. And it's just like, at this point, what was serving me served me for that time. And if it's not served me in the future, I shouldn't keep with it strictly because, well, this is how we've always done things, right? Or I've always had this kind of, I've always had an iPhone, so now I just keep iPhone. And so, yeah, man, you're right, though, that like, mentality of like, choose a side and stick with it is insane. Especially like, using the cell phone example, because I did work in a phone store, like, people who would come in, and they'd be like, I want an iPhone. I'd be like, well, are you sure? Like, the stuff you're describing sounds like you might be better off with Android. And this is the early days. Like, I mean, I was working when the iPhone 4 came out, and I left when the iPhone 7 was out, and so that's kind of the range of technology that I was in. And it was cool to see like the shift, but I remember like trying to change into people's minds to be like, hey, like this phone, it's gonna be better, blah blah. And it was like, no, man, like I know what I want. Like my mind's made up, and it's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that too when it comes to camera gear. Like I used to shoot with Micro Four Thirds and Panasonic, and then I sold everything and I switched to Sony. Right?
Yeah.
And then people
Micro
are like,
430 is back.
and it's like, oh, well, you switch to Sony? I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh, did you get full frame? I'm like, no, I got APS-C. They're like, oh, why would you do that? It's Sony, only full frame is the best. Or, oh, you want to do photography, you have to go Canon. I'm like, what is this you have to do?
Yeah.
Like, where does this come from?
And it's even weird. Like
it doesn't make sense, right?
The mentalities from people who aren't even in the industry, you know? It's like, like people will be like, you shoot Canon? It's like, no, I shoot Sony, because I shoot Sony as well. And it's like,
you do? Okay, there we go. Team Sony, bro.
Yeah, since day one, man. Like I used to shoot on a Sony Alpha 77 Mark II. I still have it in the closet.
Oh wow!
And like this thing, I mean, even when I went full time, I didn't have like a full frame. I was shooting APS. Like the lies people will tell you. No client ever asked me like, hey, is this camera full frame? Like, it just never happened. It's just, they wanted the product. And so, all that to say, do whatever you want, because there's always going to be some naysayer trying to tell you how you should do it. At the end of the day, it's us who are living our lives. And if we're not happy with the choices that we make, we can deal with that. But if I'm not happy with the choice that somebody else gave me and I had to, like, felt forced to take it, I mean, I still got to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And even the thing about the camera gear, a lot of times if you tell a client, hey, I got a Sony a7S III with the 24-70 f2.8 G Master lens, they're going to be like, okay.
Yeah,
does it take good pictures? Means. Like, they don't know. They don't care.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, why should you obsess so much about that? The only time where you do need to kind of obsess about your cameras, you need to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
Like, I've had people ask before, like, oh, what settings are you using? And it's like, my first time doing a gig. Oh, yeah. I'm on auto. then it gets kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
So you're better off learning what you got instead of like concentrating on like what you don't have, right?
Yeah.
And that's why with the Sonys, I was okay. I'm making videos for YouTube and I'm doing like these podcasts, right? Like a Sony A6500, that's more than enough for like what I'm doing. Like for YouTube, that's like fine. Like, I'm not doing big budget weddings or anything. Like just YouTube. Like that's good enough for me. So I look at the A7S3 or the Sony A1, and I'm like, man, I would love to have that. You know, the quality is amazing, the full frame is so cool. But like, do I really need that for YouTube? For YouTube? And it's like, I probably don't, right? So I'm just like, I'm gonna stay with my little. I have it right here, my little A6500.
Yeah, keep with it. Keep with it. What you got on the 85?
This is the 10 to 18.
10 to 18.
The wide.
Yeah,
the wide lens.
That's what's up. Yeah, man. Yeah, you're speaking my language, man. I could go on and on about cameras and just like how people try to push their things on you, and even yourself sometimes. Like, it's this idea that like, oh, if I just had that, you know, this is what I'm missing. I'm just missing that thing. It's like you said, no, you're missing. Like you don't actually know. Until your gear is the thing holding you back, you should never upgrade. That's how I picture it. Like until I can, like the thing I'm trying to do cannot be achieved because like the technology in my hands is just fully incapable, and not because like I just haven't learned it yet, then I'm just gonna stick with it. And like I was recently looking at a new camera, and then I just had that thought again, like no, like you haven't even reached the full potential of this one yet. Like don't go. It's not going to fix the problems. You're going to have new problems with that camera. So just keep pushing through it. It makes me think of this like quote that I heard that I think I said this like 3 times now, but I really resonated with it because in our society it's like, you know, we got to be posting, got to be on Instagram, got to be on social media, and that's how you're going to get your break, and that's where you're going to be discovered. And it was like, I'm done believing in the idea that what's missing from our work is it being seen by the right person at the right time, and I'm more so being okay with the idea that the thing missing from our work is the quality of my work, and that's what I should be focusing on. And so I think of that. I recently did a video about how I've switched up how I use social media. I have a detox, and basically I only go on social media on Fridays, and that's because when I am not disciplined with it, I'm just wasting all my time on it. Any extra time I have, I'm scrolling. And so I found that like when I am on it once a week, it serves exactly what I need to be, an outlet for me to say, hey, this is what's going on in my life, let me share something creative with you, and this is my latest YouTube video. And it's been a form of that has been pretty awesome. I like it, and I get my time back.
Oh yeah, that especially the social media stuff, that's huge, because like so many people have that same problem with just scrolling through Instagram or scrolling through TikTok, because it's like right here, it's just right in the palm of your hands. You have infinite amount of entertainment with just a thumb. Like just your thumb swipes up and you have hours of like really high quality entertaining content on there. And it's like, man, after watching that documentary, The Social Dilemma, I feel like a lot of people are more aware about, you know, their social media addictions and you know, the amount of time they use. And especially myself, I really noticed I was overusing it when I started getting these messages halfway through the month like, oh, you've used up all your data this month. For the next, you know, 11 days you have no data. And I'm like, man. What? How? And then I check my phone and it's like Instagram used 4 gigs. Like, I use 4 gigs on Instagram for what? Pictures? Just swiping through. That's so crazy, right? And that's when I was like, okay, I need to not eliminate it, because I feel like it's still important for what I want to do. But I need to do a better job at controlling it and being more responsible with my social media use. Even though I'm not perfect with it, but this is something I'm still very aware of. And, you know, I'll catch myself, oh, you know, I'm sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone, or my daughter's right there. I could be playing with her. Why do I have to look at, you know, LeBron James and Kevin Durant highlights? Like, is that what's really important for me to look at right now? And so there's times where I'll catch myself and I'll just put the stupid phone away. Just put it away. You know, and concentrate on the things in your life that are really important, that are real, that are tangible and in front of you, right? And I feel like this is a battle that, you know, I'm probably going to have for the rest of my life. I'm assuming that the way in which technology keeps increasing, and also the fact that, you know, I'm on these social media platforms, so I need to be very careful and aware of my use, right, and how I spend my time. And it's definitely tricky. It's not easy, man. Like when people say, "Oh, it's easy to just go through a social media detox," like it's not. Like it's hard. It's very hard to not pick up your phone, right?
Yeah, man. And when I made a video about a 30-day detox that I've done, and that was great. But what you said, like that, it's like something I think it's said in Essentialism too, where I got this idea, and it was like, is this the most important use of my time? And if it's not, what should I be doing? And so like that, just the fact that you're even thinking of that when you're scrolling, and then like it's like, whoa, like you know, I see my siblings, my friends, like they don't have that awareness of like they just keep going. But like, you know, maybe it's like becoming a father, maybe it's a combination of essentialism, or maybe it's just like we as humanity know that like the things aren't really serving us the way that they have been sold to be, right? And so like that idea of like, this isn't important. What is important is my family. What is important is spending time with them. And like, yeah, man, I resonate with that. Oh, let's see, my door.
Yeah, no worries, bro.
Hey. Okay. Wait, you can close it? Oh, okay. Cool. Okay. We're good still. That was a dad life. It was like that. It was like coming in on it.
No worries, man. No worries. I know what that's all about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the social media thing. I have this. I don't know if it's a analogy, but the way I view social media is that I kind of view it like fast food. It's like this thing that is so accessible and easy to consume.
Yeah.
That it just puts you in a trance without you even noticing it. Like you can just drive right now, get in your car, you're sitting, drive into like a McDonald's drive-thru, order like 2,000 calories of food that's like probably tastes delicious, and that's like you can just eat it, you know, like in like 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, and you don't even really like think about it because it's so comfortable. And I feel like social media is almost like the same. And it's just, it's so accessible, it's so entertaining, it's so easy just to just consume that like shitty material or food or whatever, where I think of it like, man, this is like picking up a Big Mac or something. It's like I'm poisoning myself. But so many people are just like, oh, it's so nice, it's so entertaining, it's so comforting, and they don't even stop to think about what they're doing, right? And so I'm a person that I really cleaned up my diet in the past couple of years. You know, I eliminated a whole bunch of like shitty foods, and I've increased my energy and just like the way I feel like tenfold, right? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, will that do the same for my mental health if I control my cell phone addiction, right? So that's kind of like, there's like this weird bridge between shitty food and social media that I've kind of created, where that's how I think about it, right? Yeah. I think about fast food affecting my physical and social media affecting my mental.
Have you done a detox? Like, have you done a social media, like, just, like, try to do, like, you know, I think of, like, not throwing the baby with the bath water, right? Not throwing the baby out with the bath water. Like, but then just being like, okay, I'm going to be deliberately, like, not at all, 30 days.
Nothing that strict, no. I've set rules for myself, like no more phones after a certain time. Yeah. Like after dinner, then I just put it away, charge it, and then leave it behind my bed or whatever. Yeah. But anything strictly a strict detox, I haven't done yet, or I haven't attempted.
Oh man,
to be honest.
No, that's great, dude. Like when I like what you're saying, it's so hard, and I'm not saying like I'm perfect, because like no, not at all. But when I did do it that one time, this is already a year ago, because it's been on my mind. Like, man, I need to do that again. Kind of like, the reason I even brought it up is because, like you're saying, like not having fast food example, and you feel a lot better, you feel healthier, you feel lighter, more energy. The amount of mental clarity that I had was like equivalent to the. Now this isn't like sounds like I'm flexing or something, but I drink a lot of coffee. But then I went no coffee for 30 days, and that was my next video. And like
that's rough.
It was horrible. Like it was literally the worst for the first 2 weeks. Had the worst headache. And I was just like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I should never did this. And I just cold turkeyed it. And I had, I mean, it's probably like 3 years of coffee every day. And the amount of clarity that I had once I was over, like once that time was over, was like, whoa, like this is insane. And so same as when I was not like, once I got rid of like that, that twitch or that like feeling of like I need to go check. Once that was gone, like my ability to focus was like tenfold. Like doing tasks and being able to sit and do one thing from start to finish without a single like distraction, I was just like, whoa, I can get so much more done in a day. And so that's what encouraged, like, it took me a long time to figure out, like, maybe, because for a while it was like, okay, either cold turkey, nothing for a week, or social media every day, and I'm just like wasting my life. And so I found for me, having that every Friday permission to be like, okay, it's Friday, I know kind of how I'm going to use it, and even if I overdo it for that one day, it's just that one day, and then I'm back off. And so the amount of like, very similar to the lightness that you feel from eating healthy is like how my brain feels when I take that. And the first 3 days are usually like sucky. It's like 3 days of like, oh, I kind of want to do, but then after that it's like, okay, well, I don't even have that habit anymore. Like, it's funny how easily my hands go from like not going to the social media apps to Audible, right? Because that's how I read all my books. It's just like like I still have this itch to learn or be like consuming something, but it goes to something that I feel really benefits me. So instead of like checking social media, it's kind of weird because I'll replace it with something else. So like, it will, if I first do social media, then like I realized I was on my phone for emails, and I knew like there's no reason, I don't even care about my emails, but I would be on there like searching like it was social media. So then I took email notifications completely off my phone, and then like after that it was like Google News. So then I had to take Google off my phone. Like I was just like for a while I didn't even realize it when it was happening, but I was replacing that social media like habit addiction with just anything that I could consume. And then so once I finally got rid of that, it was like, okay, this makes sense. Like, delete the stuff that has been causing problems, and then I can focus on the things. And yeah, man, I'd sit down and like edit a video, and like, whoa, that was way faster. Like, just completely in the zone. And I don't know where that was going, but yeah, like the mental clarity.
Yeah, there's like no distractions.
Yeah, right? The mental clarity is something that makes me think of like the older generation and how they typically do have an ability to focus better than we do, right? Like just being able to put your head down, get a task done, and not look up until that task complete. And so I'm constantly kind of dancing between that world of like still want to not completely lose my online presence, but also like being present.
Yeah, I noticed that too with like my father, for example. Like when I go see my dad, if he's cooking dinner, he's cooking dinner. Yeah. If he's watching TV, he's watching TV. But when I'm there, I'm watching TV, I'm on my phone, I'm playing with the dog, I'm on computer. Like everything has to be like this crazy multitasking, super productivity mindset. And I'm always like juggling 4 different things all at the same time. Whereas I look at my dad and he's just like chilling out, cutting up some carrots or something, or he's outside, he's focused on the task at hand. Yeah, he's just happy, right?
Yeah.
And he's locked in and engaged with what he's doing in front of him. Whereas me, my attention is kind of like all over the place. It's like I'm thinking about this and that, and maybe I should edit this video, and then what's on TV, and then there's just too much clutter in my mind all at the same time, right? And I feel like, man, I wouldn't want to blame it on technology, but at the same time, you have to realize like our parents grew up in a very different time too, right? So they're used to that very simplistic way of living where they don't have to deal with all this social media nonsense like us. But I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I want to try to figure out like how can I use all these things responsibly, because I do feel that social media is a valuable tool if you can use it in the right way. But it's just figuring out a system where you can use it responsibly. It's a lot harder than I ever thought.
Yeah. Oh, man. That technology makes a great servant and a poor master. It's just like, so true. So true.
Yeah. That's true.
We can really dive in to this idea that's like Well, it's good because it's serving me, and it's like I know I'm getting something from it, but then it's like, when does the scale get tipped in the other direction where you are now not getting what it was promised or getting like the value that you were getting in the beginning? And that could be anything, right? YouTube's a good example for me where it's like, in the beginning, when I was starting my filmmaking career, I had to spend time on YouTube. At least I told myself that. And it was because I wanted to make sure I could get information. And then in exchange, I just continuously be on it. Say hi? Yeah. And now it's like, okay, well, how can I get what I need from that and then get off? And that's like usually my mindset. I'm not perfect at it, especially with like shorts and other short consuming things where the time can pass really fast because you're consuming so much so rapidly. But yeah, I don't, like you're saying, I don't know if technology is to blame or if it's just feeding a trait that we have as humans, that if it wasn't technology, it'd be something else, right? Like it would be the newspaper, it would be a book, it would be like we would be putting it somewhere, but maybe not to the extent that we do now. Yeah, babe. What? Oh, yeah.
You all good?
Yeah.
If you ever have to go, just let me know, bro. No worries.
Yeah, we're probably like 15 minutes or so.
Okay, that's cool. Oh yeah, the YouTube thing that you were talking about. Recently, I went through all the channels that I was subscribed to, and then I asked myself, which of these do I watch for education and which ones do I watch for entertainment? Mm-hmm. And what I did was I unsubscribed to a ton of channels that were kind of like Mr. Beast, where you just watch it for entertainment. You're not really watching it to learn anything. I didn't delete all of them, or I didn't unsubscribe to all of them, but I removed a lot of them from my subscription feed, so I stopped getting those notifications, because I do believe that YouTube is an amazing tool, especially for videographers, to learn editing techniques, to learn, just to learn things, right, to get more educated. And what I noticed for myself was, following these people like Casey Neistat or Peter McKinnon, like I'm watching them for the entertainment value because, their content is so appealing, right? Yeah. But I'm not learning anything from them anymore. Like I know Peter McKinnon, he does have those like 2-Minute Tuesdays and some of those tutorial videos, but it's like not this. Yeah, it's like not the same anymore. I just watched him for like the celebrity that he is, right? And it's like, I gotta. It's time to jump off that bandwagon.
Yeah. I think of it like this, like you got what you needed from them, right? Like there was that time where it's like, okay, I'm consuming because like maybe it's inspiring, or maybe you're subconsciously learning how they work their videos out. But then after that, it's like, okay, I'm still subscribed, and now it's become like I watched him to learn, but now I've kind of I like their personalities, and now I watch for entertainment. But then it gets to that point, like you're saying, where it's like, well, I don't think is it serving me the way that it was in the beginning? And if the scale has been tipped, now it's time to reassess it. He went out that way, man. Go ahead, buddy. He was in here with me. I probably should have told her that I had him. That's like the number one thing for how things get messed up. It's like, if I always think if we go to the park together, when we're together at the park, it's like, oh, I thought you were watching them. Oh, I thought you were watching them. But if I go by myself, it's like, oh, I'm watching them. If she goes by herself, oh, I'm watching them. And so we always talk about like, well, we always just assume that one of them are watching them, and then it's like, whoa, nobody's watching them.
Yeah, that's true. the struggles of parenthood, bro.
Yeah, man, dad life.
Don't worry, I respect I respect the game, man. It's definitely not easy.
Oh,
and
I'm
learning along, as I go. I'm still learning how to be a good father.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's just like the willingness to say, okay, I think I'm always gonna be learning. I don't think there's ever a stage where I'm like, I got this fatherhood thing figured out. Like, I think once I get there, it's like, well, my kids might have something otherwise to say, like, hey, you got a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy? How fast they adapt to technology.
Oh, man.
My wife the other day was looking through her iPhone, and all of a sudden she had 100 pictures of like the couch, and we were like, what the hell is that? And then all of a sudden it turned into 2 little feet And we were like, oh my God, Tiffany was taking pictures of her feet. And I'm like, how did you know how to do that? Like, that's so crazy. Obviously it was like, by chance. It was probably super random. She just happened to unlock it.
Yeah.
But still, I see her. She's like going like this on the screen, like swiping.
Yeah, they understand.
I'm like,
it, man.
wow, that's insane, man. That's so crazy.
Yeah, man. You're speaking my language, man. Especially, like I said, working in the phone industry, and like this conversation, exactly what you're saying now is something I had plenty of times where it's like, you don't got to teach them. Like, they observe, they can watch you do it probably once, even twice, like probably more than that, but that's all they really need. And they got to figure it out. Like, okay, this is how you do that.
Yeah. That's true. Well, hey, bro, this was an awesome chat. Let's wrap up this pod.
Yes.
Tell the people where they can see your work, your website, YouTube, Instagram, all that.
Yeah, so Instagram is kind of where like my creative photos will basically live, and that's just Instagram.com. My handle is Willie Shaw, WILLIESHAW, and on YouTube, same thing, Willie Shaw, and that's where just trying to live a more meaningful life, and I'm just practicing and documenting and constantly trying new things. Essentialism is kind of the core. That life is kind of like why Essentialism is the core, and everything in between.
Well, awesome, bro. All right, thanks for doing this pod, man. It was great. Best of luck to everything in the future, and keep being a good father, man.
Hey, likewise, man. I appreciate you having me, man, and I look forward to seeing your stuff.
Yo, anytime, dude.
Yeah, take care, man.
All right, take it easy.